with liberty and justice for all. Moving on to item number 4, are there any changes to the order of the agenda this evening from staff?
Nothing from staff this evening, Mr. Mayor.
Anything from my colleagues? All right, very good. We will move on to number 5, presentations. We have a couple of important presentations here this evening in recognition of February 2024 as Cancer Prevention Month and as American Heart Month. So I think we have some folks here to receive proclamations from the city. So Molly St. Clair, if you may please come forward. Great, thank you for coming tonight. And so yes, we'll give you a moment to speak, but we just wanted to officially proclaim this for February 2024. So this is a little long, but these are important, so I intend to read all of them. Whereas in February 1964, President Lyndon Johnson issued the first proclamation designating February as American Heart Month. Since then, U.S. presidents have annually declared February American Heart Month. And whereas every year about 695,000 Americans die from heart disease affects all ages, genders, and ethnicities, and is the #1 cause for deaths for most groups. Whereas although heart disease has been around for thousands of years, we do know that many aspects of modern life exacerbate risk factors and make people more prone to heart disease and heart failure. And whereas the American Heart Month is observed to raise awareness on the importance of a healthy heart and to encourage healthy habits that help reduce the risk of heart disease. And whereas American Heart Month is also a chance to recognize the dedicated healthcare professionals, honor researchers working towards tomorrow's breakthroughs, and demonstrate our personal commitment to a heart-healthy lifestyle. And whereas by increasing awareness, speaking out about heart disease, and empowering the community to reduce the risk for cardiovascular diseases, we can save lives. And now, therefore, be it proclaimed that I, John Dugan, Mayor of the City of San Carlos, on behalf of the entire City Council, do hereby proclaim February 2024 as American Heart Month in the City of San Carlos, presented this 26th day of February 2024. Yep. Thank you. And would invite you to say a few words, but first I will just mention that heart disease has definitely impacted my family. I've lost my father and a brother to heart disease, and I think about it often. So thank you for being here tonight, and I take this one seriously. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Molly St. Clair with the American Heart Association. Thank you for recognizing February as American Heart Month again this year, as we celebrate the Heart Association's 100th anniversary and impact, and for acknowledging the mission and work in saving lives from heart disease and stroke. As a San Mateo County resident, mom, and Senior Development Director for the American Heart Association's Go Red movement, I know how the health and well-being of our families in this community depend on all of us working together to ensure that everyone has the opportunity to live a long and healthy life. Thank you for the passage of a strong tobacco retail license. As a mom of 3 young boys, this is particularly important to me. The American Heart Association gratefully accepts this proclamation and the city's continued support of its work. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Molly. I appreciate that. And now we would like to move on to proclaim February as also Cancer Prevention Month. And if Rob Tufel, if you'd like to join us up front.
I'm actually on the Zoom.
Oh, very good. Then I will read the proclamation from here. And I appreciate that you're available to give a few words. Whereas National Cancer Prevention Month was first observed in 2004 after the passage of the 2003 Senate Resolution 252, and whereas according to the National Institutes of Health, each year in the United States, approximately 1.9 million people are diagnosed with cancer, and there are over 600,000 cancer deaths. And whereas research has shown that more than 40% of all cancer diagnoses and nearly half of all deaths from cancer in the United States are due to preventable causes, including smoking, excess body weight, physical inactivity, and excessive exposure to the sun. And whereas making healthy lifestyle choices and annual cancer screenings for the detection of some cancers can prevent the disease from reaching an advanced, potentially lethal stage. Whereas the City of San Carlos recognizes Cancer Prevention Month to raise awareness about preventing cancer and urges the community to take steps towards preventing certain cancers and protecting your health to live a cancer-free life. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed that I, John Dugan, Mayor of the City of San Carlos, on behalf of the entire City Council, do hereby proclaim February 2024 as Cancer Prevention Month in the City of San Carlos, presented this 26th day of February 2024. And before I hand it over to Rob, I'll just say that I have lost 3 of my 4 grandparents to cancer. So both of these proclamations are very meaningful to me. Thank you, Rob, for joining us this evening.
You're welcome. Do I have a few minutes to say some things?
Of course.
Great. First of all, thank you, Mayor Dugan, and thank you, council members, for having Cancer Support Community here today. You know, cancer, the number of people diagnosed with cancer is increasing. Actually, that number that you said in the proclamation, 1.9 million, a report came out about 3 weeks ago. That number is actually 2 million now a year. And we know that by the year 2050, the number of people diagnosed with cancer will increase by almost 50%. And most of the people impacted by cancer are older adults. So that population will continue to be impacted. We know that if we can prevent cancer, that's one of the best ways to reducing those numbers. We also know that people who have been diagnosed with cancer can take certain activities to reduce their chance of having a recurrence. And for over 30 years, Cancer Support Community, San Francisco Bay Area, has provided free support services to cancer patients and their families, all the things that don't take place in the hospital. The majority of the cancer experience takes place outside of the hospital. And we offer programs like support groups, nutrition classes, educational workshops, exercise, social connections. And we do all that virtually, and we do it in person, and we do it for free. And I want to thank the council so much for having us here today and having this proclamation. It is so important to raise not only awareness about how people can prevent cancer, but also about the support programs that are available for cancer patients and their families once they're diagnosed with cancer as well. So thank you very much, and I appreciate your support of Cancer Support Community and cancer patients and their families in our community.
Thank you very much, Rob. I really appreciate that, and I appreciate everything your organization and the American Heart Association does in our community. And Rob, we will send this proclamation to you. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Perfect. Great. Thank you so much.
At this time, do one of my colleagues have a comment? I see Councilmember Collins.
Mr. Mayor, that's for the next topic, so thanks.
Thank you very much. Seeing other comments, are there any public comments on this item? We will pause for 30 seconds if anyone wants to join us by Zoom. Crystal, are there any public comments in the room?
There are no public comment speaker slips that I've received and no hands on Zoom.
Okay, thank you very much. Moving on to item 6, council communications and announcements. Do any of my colleagues have something they would like to communicate or announce this evening?
I do.
Councilmember Collins.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. At our last meeting, we recognized Black History Month, and It occurred to me during that meeting that we did have a black member of our community as a council member back in 2000. That was Lee Thompson. And he, I believe, replaced another member of our council that moved away. And I didn't want that to go unrecognized because I knew Lee was a fine guy. I actually talked to him and asked him to run again for council, and he declined. But anyway, we are very fortunate to have had, I think he still lives in the community, and if he's watching, he probably isn't. But I wanted to, again, recognize that Lee was on the council and was a very highly respected member of our community and on the council. The second item I wanted to talk about was that I happen to be a member of the County Housing and Community Development Committee, and on Thursday, the committee is going to be awarding about $6.6 million in state and federal housing funds for projects in the county. There's 41 applications for a total of about $15 million in funding requests that were received by the Housing Department. But less than half of that amount of money is available. And I'm going to bring up the following because people say there's not much building going on in the county. The county has requests from 3 cities, Belmont, East Palo Alto, and North Fair Oaks, for over $11 million. They're not, unfortunately, there's not enough money in federal and state funds to do that. Belmont has 2 projects totaling 102 units. East Palo Alto has 1 project with 79 units. North Fair Oaks has 2 projects for over 121 units. And these requests include a provision for many units for people with disabilities, veterans, homeless, and seniors. So affordable housing is being built around the county, and San Carlos is participating in that. But when people say that we're not building it, they need to pay a little bit closer attention because it is getting done in the county. The last thing I had was regarding Caltrain electrification. There was a public showing of the new electric trains in San Francisco last fall, and there's going to be another showing. It's a public tour that's going to take place on Saturday, May 11th from 10 to 2, and it's going to be right here in San Carlos at our station. And the event is free, and it'll be family friendly, which means if it's like the last one, there will be lots of little things, toys and things that parents can take home to their children and grandparents can take home to their grandchildren. So. And then Caltrain will also be celebrating its 160th anniversary as a rail line from San Francisco to San Jose. Also, starting March 9th, Caltrain is going to begin electric train car testing on weeknights between San Mateo and Mountain View. So if you see one of those new trains, you won't see anybody in it because they're testing it. They have to test each train for 1,000 miles before they allow it into service. And revenue service is still scheduled for September 1st. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Ron. Appreciate all those good announcements. Anything else? If not, I would just add that this is our last council meeting before our election, which will close on March 5th. Most of us have our ballots already, and it's an important election. Beyond the primaries, we also have a important school bond measure on that ballot worthy of everyone's consideration. If nothing else, we will move on to public comment. Public comment is for items not on our agenda this evening. If anyone would like to provide public comment, now would be the time to do so. We will wait at least 30 seconds for folks to raise their hand on Zoom. Once you raise your hand, you will have 1 chance to participate, and we'll only accept folks on Zoom who initially raise their hand at this time. Crystal, do we have any public comment here in the room this evening?
No, I have not received any slips, and I do not see any hands on Zoom just yet.
Okay, we will give it a few more seconds. Are there any hands on Zoom at this time?
No hands. Thank you.
Okay, we will move on to item 8, our consent calendar. Do any of my colleagues wish to pull something from the consent calendar? Vice Mayor McDowell.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would like to pull item I, which is adopting the resolution approving the plans and specifications for the San Carlos Avenue Pedestrian Safety Improvement Project, Phase 3.
Okay, duly noted. Anyone else? If not, I would entertain a motion to approve calendar consent items A through H.
I move to approve City Council consent calendar items A through H.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Terrific. Crystal, we'll take a roll call on consent calendar items A through H.
Okay. Councilmember Collins?
Yes.
Councilmember Venkatesh?
Yes.
Councilmember Rack?
Yes.
Vice Mayor McDowell?
Yes.
And Mayor Dugan.
Yes. Vice Mayor McDowell, would you like to speak to item I?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just thought that in the interest of transparency, it would be helpful for our community to learn a little bit more about this project. So I asked our Director of Public Works if he could give a brief overview just to let the community know where this stands. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. I love sidewalks, so I look forward to this as well. Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, City Council Member Stephen Machida, Public Works Director. So it's my pleasure to actually give you a really short presentation on this project. So this is the San Carlos Avenue Pedestrian Safety Project. This is the third phase. So the phases 1 through 2 actually occurred in 2021, basically from Prospect to Wellington. So obviously I mentioned this is the third phase, so from Wellington to Beverly is kind of the area that we're going to be improving. So as you can see, it's highlighted in yellow. From Beverly to Beverly, including Cambridge, Plymouth, and Charlton. So the project background is really trying to increase or providing, improving pedestrian safety, but providing additional sidewalks along this reach. We will continue to improve sidewalks, connectivity to the downtown and through all the schools. What we'll do is improve mobility for all the community members, including ADA accessibility, and enhance bike lanes along this reach, along San Carlos Avenue. And it also provides beautification enhancements in this reach, including stormwater treatment, landscaping, and street trees. So just a little bit background, as we had done in the first two phases, we actually did kind of one-on-one meetings with all affected property owners. This really kind of allowed us to really kind of focus and identify those areas that are concerned to each of the specific property owners. We also conducted some online surveys to kind of garner information back from the community on what they thought was very, very important. In addition, we had some virtual workshops or open houses, 2 of them, in fact, one in June and one in September of 2022. Again, what we really were seeking is trying to get input from the community as far as what they felt was really important. The overall response is that most participants were really actually very supportive of this project. Number one, they really felt that they wanted to, they wanted the sidewalks as well as improving the safety along this corridor. On-street parking was also one of the questions that we had in the survey, and what we found is it wasn't as high a priority as we had anticipated. So we actually showed them to various alternatives, including some on-street parking and kind of eliminating some parking, and they were quite fine with actually limiting the street parking in this reach. So here's kind of the plan set. This is an overall view plan set. This is from Devonshire or Wellington. And as you can see, on the corner of Wellington and San Carlos, this would be on the, I guess, north side of San Carlos Avenue. There's two properties that kind of are probably the most impacted. This is a result of some of the work that they actually had installed within the right-of-way. So as a result of trying to kind of work with them and try to make sure that this project gets done, some of the actual retaining walls, landscaping, various improvements that they actually previously installed need to really be kind of pushed back or essentially be reconstructed, kind of so it's all in their property. But this would allow us to improve the intersection and sidewalk on Wellington at San Carlos Avenue. If you go further to your left, as you can see, there's some trees off of Cambridge on the south side of this road. You know, this is kind of the start of the tree planting that we want to include. We're going to add 7 new trees that were not there before. And let me go to the next slide. So this is kind of continuation of the plant set. So you can see 3 more starting off to the right side of the screen. And then you cross Plymouth, you have 1 more tree. And then if you also look at this on the south side, just right adjacent to the curb, that's the stormwater treatment. So this is the area that we would collect water off the street and actually direct it into the stormwater basins for actually treatment. So this is kind of a thing that, you know, we wanted to continue from the first 2 phases, phases 1 and 2. And then, as you can see, we had add 2 more trees just between Charleston and Plymouth, as well as you can see the stormwater treatment. In this case, we are putting new sidewalks along both sides of the street, so both north and south side, all the way up to Beverly. As I mentioned, some of the work, let me go back, let me go back to the first screen. Some of the work that we're actually going to be doing does require us to work on site a little bit, specifically the driveways, so that we actually have a smooth transition from bringing the driveways from the current location to a different elevation. So we will actually have to go into private property to adjust it so that we would have a smooth transition. And this was all kind of discussed during our one-on-one with these property owners, so making sure that they understood what was going to be happening. So, continuing on, I mean, that really concludes my presentation. And so, you know, what we're seeking is, if council has any additional feedback or comments that you want to provide to us, or if you wish to proceed as designed, what we're asking you is to adopt a resolution approving the plans and specs for this project, and then authorizing a call for bids. So with that, concludes my presentation. I'd be happy to take any questions that you may have.
Great, thank you, Stephen. Appreciate that overview. Do any of my colleagues have questions on this item? Vice Mayor McDowell.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I don't really have a question. I just wanted to provide a brief comment, if that's okay. Stephen, thanks a lot for that presentation. It was an excellent slideshow, and I think it's really important to show the community these plans. I want to say thank you for the tree replanting as well, because that's something we heard from the community when the eucalyptus trees came down, you know, if we could replace the trees. So I appreciate that we're putting in some new trees. And I also just wanted to really send my thank you to the neighbors on San Carlos Avenue for being so collaborative in this process. I appreciated your overview of all the meetings that you had. It sounds like, you know, some residents will be especially impacted with their retaining walls and their driveways, and construction is, you know, kind of difficult to live through momentarily, but, you know, we've certainly heard from the community how important sidewalks and bike lanes are, especially on a corridor like San Carlos. So just wanted to thank everyone for their collaboration and for your staff too. Stephen, the plans look, you know, great to me, and I'm looking forward to seeing this completed. Thank you.
Terrific. Thank you, Sarah. And Stephen, I would just ask briefly, I know this area well. I travel it as a pedestrian. On the south side, I do appreciate the new sidewalks there. Phase 1 and 2 did not have sidewalks on the south side. Is there, is that something we may get to in the future, or is that, was there something different about this phase that required it on the south side?
So I believe you're referring to the south side, I think, between Cordilleras and Alameda. Currently, it's essentially an asphalt walkway. It's not really a sidewalk. We actually did not do that work during the first phase, I think, as a result of, you know, we're still kind of conducting the eucalyptus tree removal. And what we're afraid of is we actually did the sidewalk work as the eucalyptus tree removal project was moving forward. It would damage the sidewalk. So our intention is to go back and actually kind of complete that area, but first we want to definitely make sure that it was kind of safe and secure. It was not included in this original or phase 3, but, you know, we have to kind of fit it into the work plan going forward.
Got it. I appreciate that. And were those funds already part of Phase 1 and 2 or not? That'll be a Phase 4 sometime next year or something like that?
Yes, it was not included in the original project or phases 1 and 2. It was going to be added on, at a future point.
Okay. Well, I would certainly, as that fits into prioritization, this is now going to look like brand-new sidewalks kind of on an island there a bit. So it would be nice to get back and complete that south side on San Carlos Avenue. Very good. Thank you, Stephen. If no one else has any comments, I would. Greg, do we need to take public comment on consent calendar items?
We should, since it was pulled.
Okay, very good. Is there any public comment on this item? I will pause for 30 seconds to allow people to raise their hand in Zoom. Any public comment in the room, Crystal?
No, I have not received any slips on that. And I do not see any hands on Zoom.
Okay, very good. In that case, I will entertain a motion for item 8I.
Mr. Mayor, I move to adopt a resolution approving the plans and specifications for the San Carlos Avenue Pedestrian Safety Improvement Project, Phase 3, C1806, and authorizing a call for bids.
Thank you very much. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Crystal, can we please have a roll call?
Vice Mayor McDowell?
Yes.
Councilmember Collins?
Yes.
Councilmember Venkatesh?
Yes.
Councilmember Rapp?
Yes.
And Mayor Dugan.
Yes, terrific. The measure passes and sidewalks continue to get built in San Carlos. Thank you. Moving on to number 9, we have a public hearing concerning a new Northeast Area Overlay District. I believe we have a staff presentation this evening. The floor is yours, Lisa.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, and good evening, council members. Lisa Porras, Planning Manager. The item before the council tonight is consideration of proposed amendments to the San Carlos zoning ordinance relative to the Northeast area. On April 7th this year, the Northeast Area moratorium that began in April 2022 would end, and development applications can once again be submitted. These proposed amendments would require a conditional use permit process for most projects in the Northeast area until the specific plan is adopted in early 2025. The intent of the zoning amendments is to provide additional oversight and discretion through a conditional use permit process while their doors are open once again for business as the city accepts development applications in this area. Having this additional oversight would help ensure that development proposals are consistent with the City Council's strategic goal and objectives for the Northeast area specific plan. The boundaries for this conditional use permit requirement would essentially be the same as the boundaries of the Northeast Area Specific Plan. And under this proposal, conditional use permits would be an additional requirement. So projects that require lot line adjustments, a subdivision, design review, a plan development, or a variance would need to apply for a conditional use permit in addition to all permit types that are already required. However, this conditional use permit would not apply to pre-approved projects, applications to install signs, minor exterior improvements, solar equipment, improvements made to pre-existing buildings, regular maintenance and repair, removal of protected trees, and minor changes to pre-approved use permits. So in addition to a new section that would be added to the zoning ordinance, which would be the Northeast Area Overlay District, 2 sections would be amended under this proposal. Section 18.07.020 regulates land uses for the city's 4 industrial zoning districts, and this is the area where all possible land uses that are identified as either permitted, conditionally permitted, or require a minor use permit. So this table would be amended to add a new footnote that alerts readers that a potential use permit could be required if the project is located in the Northeast area. In addition to all other findings that are set forth in Section 1830 use permits, a new finding or criteria that must be met in order to approve a project would be added. And this additional would only apply to projects in the Northeast area. So to conclude, the Planning and Transportation Commission recommends to introduce an ordinance that would amend Title 18 zoning sections on industrial districts, use permits, and then adding a new section called the Northeast Area Overlay District. Should the council introduce this ordinance tonight, a second reading would occur on March 11th, and the new rules would become effective 30 days thereafter on April 11th. And again, once the Northeast Area Specific Plan is adopted, this overlay district and its use permit requirements would be repealed. So here is the formal motion for council's consideration. Thank you, and I'm available to answer any questions the council may have.
Terrific. Thank you for that good presentation, Lisa. I think that was really laid it out for us. Do any of my colleagues have any questions of Lisa this evening? Vice Mayor McDowell.
Thank you so much, Lisa, for your presentation. And I watched the Planning Commission meeting, and I thought they had a really nice, robust conversation, too. So I appreciated their thoughtful approach. I guess I'm wondering, could you walk us through and walk the public through what would happen if a large development project came through? You'd kind of look at where we are with the planning, with the Northeast Area Specific Plan, and kind of guide them. And specifically, what would happen if someone came in and wanted to build a commercial project where we're thinking about putting housing? Do we have legal standing to say, no, the future plan is going to talk about housing? I saw your finding about reasonably foreseeable future land uses, but just wanted to kind of walk through that a little bit. Thank you.
Sure, absolutely. So for any project, for a new development application, in addition to any design review or transportation demand management plan, they would need to apply for a use permit. And because it's a project in the Northeast area, this new additional finding would be a requirement that the project would be subject to. So it gives the city additional oversight and discretion and the potential to add any conditions of approval assigned to this project. So this particular finding, and maybe I'll refer to the city attorney to help me out here, but the purpose of it is exactly that, to require that staff look at the proposal and compare how it aligns with this specific plan as it's set forth in the resolution, the strategic plan for the city council. So it's really this particular finding that gives the city the ability to have additional discretion over that. May I ask you, Greg? Thank you.
That's exactly what's intended by this additional finding, is to allow the Planning Commission to evaluate whether or not the proposed use permit is in conflict and compatible with reasonably foreseeable uses there, and that because we know the uses in that area, in some areas, are likely to change, we wanted to be able to have the ability to look at that and make the appropriate findings based upon the substantial evidence and information that we have at that time.
Thank you. So just one follow-up question. So the use permit would only go to the Planning Commission, it would not come to the City Council?
That's correct. Use permits end at the Planning Commission, but they can be called up to the council.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. Are there any other questions or comments from my colleagues? If not, I will just ask, Lisa, I noticed that this is a conditional use permit, so it would come before the Planning and Transportation Commission for approval. And then if, what is our purview over that? Is it's up to council, we could pull anything up from an approval at that level? Because I just know right now the moratorium was put in place by us, and having discretion at the planning commission level, I'm fine with, as long as we still have some authority to pull things up and take a look if we need to.
I'll defer to our city attorney on that. Thank you.
Our municipal code allows the council, if something's not appealed, the council has essentially the right to appeal something within the same 10-day period. And so if the council decided to call something up, you would want to let or any member of the council wanted to pull something up, you'd need to let staff know within that 10-day period, and then we can handle it from there.
Okay, very good, thank you. And then I noticed, I think there was this a reference to when we think the Northeast Area Specific Plan may be done, but there was a sentence in staff report that said this would be effective through early 2025, but this is a new overlay district, so this would be our code until it's superseded by something. So if it took us another 2 years to do the Northeast Area Plan, I don't think it will, but if it did, there's no issue with this continuing for 2 years.
Exactly right. This is not some sort of automatic repeal. It would need action upon, staff to bring that forward once the specific plan is adopted. So it would remain in place, and staff would only bring it back once the specific plan is adopted, and maybe could even do it in tandem with adoption of the specific plan.
Okay, very good.
Yeah.
Thank you. Well, those are my questions. If there are no other questions, this is a public hearing, so we will move on to public comment. We will give folks a minute to raise their hand on Zoom, and in the meantime, we'll take any public comments that may be in the room.
I do not have any slips for in-person comments.
Okay. We will pause for a bit for our public hearing. Are there any hands raised at Zoom at this time?
There are no hands.
Okay, I will entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
Mr. Mayor, I move to close the public hearing.
Terrific. I have a motion and a second to close public hearing. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any nays? So moved. The public hearing is now closed. Any final thoughts or comments from my colleagues? I see Councilmember Collins.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just quickly, Lisa, can you tell us when we should expect the next updates?
Mr. Mayor, I think we just missed, we should do a roll call vote on the closing of the public hearing.
All right.
Craig, could you clarify that? I see many motions moved and passed at all manner of public meetings in that manner. Certainly comports with Roger's Rules of Order or whatever else we're abiding by here this evening.
Yeah, the Brown Act requires that the vote of each member of the council be recorded. And so this sounds like a procedural vote essentially, but we just have to have a record how everybody voted on it. So sometimes I've had in other contexts, council say is there anybody objecting to that motion, or has something like that? But I think just our practice has been just to make sure we cover that base and don't have any misunderstanding about how each member voted, that we just do the roll call and then it's automatic.
That's fine. I just, if there's no nays, isn't it all recorded at that point?
That's the argument. I mean, I understand what you're saying, and I have in my prior practice, this issue did come up with a very large body that had 25 members, and that's the way I advised them to make sure that if there was anyone objecting, that we had their recorded vote. So that's how I handled it in a large body, but I think just my advice has been at the council level and at the planning commission level that we just do the roll call, and it's just an automatic thing. And if we don't do it on a procedural thing. It's not as significant as an actual action, but we don't want to forget it on an actual action. That's why I just think they automatically having a roll call makes it easier for.
Well, I'll certainly accept City Council's advice this evening. We might want to look at it. I literally see actions passed at, county supervisor level, many county boards, et cetera. So, but very well, let's move back, and I will, Crystal, if you may call a roll call to close the public hearing for item 9, please.
Okay. Councilmember Rack?
Yes.
Vice Mayor McDowell?
Yes.
Councilmember Collins?
Yes.
Councilmember Venkatesh?
Yes.
And Mayor Dugan?
Yes.
Thank you.
The public hearing is now closed. Councilmember Collins, I believe you had a comment.
Yes, just a question for Lisa. Now that we are doing this particular action tonight, my question is, when would you expect that we'll get the next set of updates on the Northeast Specific Plan? Is it a matter of months, weeks? And maybe just tell us what are you guys going to be doing in the next few months along these lines?
Oh, there you go. Oh, it's back off. Now it's on.
Hello. All right. Thank you for your question, Sajudi Hogg, Senior Analyst. For the Northeast Area Specific Plan, we had the study session earlier this month, so the consulting team is now working on the technical analysis. The environmental review will be starting. We're considering another community workshop sometime in the summer, and then we'll be looking at the first draft in the fall, and then later at the end of the year, we're looking at a second draft, and then in 2025 in the spring we're anticipating adoption. The Planning and Transportation Commission, when we took the overlay district item to them in January, they requested that staff provide an update on the status of both the specific plan and the status of the overlay district in case any changes are warranted in the fourth quarter of this year, so late in 2024. If requested, staff may come back to provide a status update.
Thank you.
Okay, very good. Any other final comments? If not, I would entertain a motion to approve item 9.
I can do it. I move to introduce ordinance number
1611.
an ordinance of the City of San Carlos amending Title 18 of the San Carlos Municipal Code, Chapters 18.07 Industrial Districts and 18.30 Use Permits, and adding a new chapter 18.14A Northeast Area Overlay District.
Thank you for that. We have a motion. Would there be a second?
I'll second.
Terrific. We have a motion and a second. Crystal, please call roll.
Okay. Councilmember Venkatesh?
Yes.
Councilmember Rack?
Yes.
Vice Mayor McDowell?
Yes.
Councilmember Collins?
Yes.
And Mayor Dugan?
Yes, that matter is approved. Thank you very much. Moving on to item 10, new business. And this is consideration of an omnibus ordinance update to our code, just cleaning up what appears to me some minor items. Do we have a staff report on this item tonight?
Yes, we're going to have a brief one. Good evening, Mayor Dugan and Council. Crystal Moy, your city clerk.
Terrific. Thank you, Crystal. Appreciate it.
Okay, so I am going to be presenting on the omnibus ordinance that's before you tonight for consideration. An omnibus ordinance is a consolidation of changes on several minor matters. Rather than adopting several ordinances to cover each individual section change to the code, an omnibus allows for the adoption of a single ordinance to make several changes to different sections and chapters. Jumped fast. The proposed amendments are intended to clarify existing language that is ambiguous, contains errors and/or omissions, or is inconsistent with other provisions of the municipal code, and generates confusion for staff and members of the public that reference our code. So here are the changes that we're proposing. Section 1.04.100 and 8.08.070. We're going to update City Hall's address from 666 Elm to 600 Elm. Section 2.12.010 clarifies that the Administrative Services Director or his or her designee serves as the city's finance director. Updates are needed to Chapter 3.14 to conform with the threshold increases under state law for public informal bid projects. Section 5.44.080, we're just clarifying that the Do Not Knock registry forms are also available online. Chapter 2.24 references the Residential Design Review Committee, and since that's been dissolved, we're going to remove references to that. And then we're also proposing that throughout the municipal code, we're going to update Planning Commission's name to Planning and Transportation Commission. And that concludes my presentations. Happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Terrific, Crystal. Appreciate that overview. And these all look pretty straightforward, but do we have any questions or comments from my colleagues? I will just say I'm a lot more comfortable sitting at 600 Elm Street than 666 Elm Street, so I appreciate this. Vice Mayor McDowell.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have a comment since you opened it up to questions and comments, and it's about the Do Not Knock registry, and I'm glad that we're updating the language to talk about forms being available online. I think it should be really easy for our residents to sign up for the Do Not Knock registry, and I certainly appreciate right now the door-to-door sales of our Girl Scouts in town, but I just wanted to make a comment that my address has been listed on the registry for 10 years. And unfortunately, it seems to be ignored by a lot of solicitors. People have knocked on my door from solar companies, pest control companies. Most recently, a very questionable nonprofit was in my neighborhood without a permit. And after some research, I discovered it has a history of child abuse. So since we are amending language tonight on the Do Not Knock registry, I do want to take this opportunity to suggest that we agendize taking a look at the registry. It's been several years. I don't think I've taken a look at it since we've been on the council. I'd like to see if it's working as intended and consider potentially some tune-ups. I'd like to understand how the solicitor permits are approved, and I do think that we can make that process a little more transparent to the community so that we can all see who legitimately has a permit and who doesn't. So I'm happy to bring that up again at agenda setting, but since we're talking about the registry, I wanted to raise it now. Thank you.
Terrific. Thank you, Sarah. And Greg, is it more appropriate for us to propose that for a future agenda at this time or to wait for agenda setting?
You could do it on this item. It's just to direct us to bring it back. It's pertinent to the subject matter of this item.
Terrific. Would any of my colleagues also like to take a look at our Do Not Knock registry?
I'm happy to take a look at it.
I see all nodding heads, so we will take a look at our registry. Thank you, Sarah. I appreciate that. Seeing no other questions or comments, do we have any public comment on item 10 this evening?
I do not have any slips for in-person and do not see any hands on Zoom.
All right, we will hold for 20 or 30 seconds here. If you have public comment, please raise your hand now. Still no hands? All right, terrific. In that case, I would entertain a motion to approve item 10.
Mr. Mayor, I move to introduce ordinance number 1612, an omnibus ordinance of the City of San Carlos approving the San Carlos Municipal Code cleanup amendments to various sections of the Municipal Code and to conform Chapter 3.14 public projects with updated informal bidding threshold amounts under state law.
Second.
Terrific. We have a motion and a second. Roll call, please, Crystal.
Councilmember Collins?
Yes.
Councilmember Venkatesh?
Yes.
Councilmember Rack?
Yes.
Vice Mayor McDowell?
Yes.
And Mayor Dugan.
Yes, the motion is passed. Moving on to item 11, is there anything else we would like to consider for agenda setting this evening? Seeing nothing, we will move to item 12, adjournment. We're adjourned for this evening.